So today, at the request of all of you, especially fuck you, Bearing, we will be covering the other part, the second half, to the Woolly Bumblebee's video on free speech warriors. Now, I don't intend to take this as anywhere near seriously as I did the first time, because I don't believe I can add too much more to this. But, if I am to truly abide my own beliefs on free speech, then we're going to, well, fuck it, play it. But just before we do that, I want to insert two things. Firstly, I want a sandwich.
Okay, so after the 15 millionth try, I think I finally figured this out. Let's see, here we have some cheese I got for free today because coupons rock. Got some cheap-ass wheat bread, the psst kind. And let's see how this goes. Alright, let's see. Slap that out of the piece.
Thanks, Danielle. Second, Irate Bear has a very important message for us. Your contribution is, as always, very much appreciated. And if anything sets the tone for the rest of this video, thank you, Irate Bear.
I have downs.
Now, where were we on that video?
They do not wish to hear other points of view because they consider those points of view to be counterproductive and detrimental to their ideology.
Ah, yes. Dissenting opinions and how oddly familiar it felt with regards to certain cliques, groups, brain trusts, internet feminists. I'm sure there are anti-feminist cliques that are just as bad. I just don't know them. Let's continue, shall we?
In order to maintain cohesion and keep their message on point, they must insulate themselves from any and all opposition. They must, as any religion or cult does, keep their followers in a controlled echo chamber where only the right kind of information is disseminated on a regular basis in order to help keep cognitive dissonance at a minimum.
Just before I address what you've just said, to those who are watching this that have yet to see the first part, I have left a link in the description to that, because I was too lazy to do both parts at the same time, and reasons. Now, to address what you have said, provided everyone has already seen part 1 of this, you have yet to prove at all that any of this is proof that people like Richard Spencer and the other tosser you mentioned are not in favour of free speech. But with quotes like this, you are, if we go by the logic that people like Richard Spencer and the other tosser are not in favour of free speech, it would be safe to assume that, much like those that you associate with now, are also not in favour of free speech.
The other question I had was, what about platforms like, say, in universities for people like Milo Yiannopoulos and such? What are your views on that?
So my personal view is that a university is a place of learning. And if you have a theory or an ideological if you have a perspective that kind of adds to the university discourse as a speaker, I think, speakers should have something that actually elevates the education understanding of their students. And running around being provocative and calling people names and outing trans students does not help for that discourse.
One final word I have to mention from Just Words, and it is man up. They don't like it when you say man up. Enforcing, what is it they call it, heteropatriarchal notions of toxic masculinity. Fuck off! God, man up's a big no-no for liberals. They're intent on eliminating masculinity from culture. Toxic masculinity and rape culture are some other idiotic things they like to say in their war against men. Well, I can tell you one UW Milwaukee student that does not need to man up. And that is Justine Kramer. Do you know about Justine Kramer? Have any of you come into contact with this person? This quote-unquote non-binary trans... You're not laughing now, are you? You know him. quote-unquote non-binary trans woman forced his way into the women's locker rooms this year. Who knows about this story? Any of you? I see you don't even read your own student media. He got into the women's room the way liberals always operate, using the government and the courts to weasel their way where they don't belong. In this case, he made a Title IX complaint. Title IX is a set of rules to protect women on campus effectively. It's couched in the language of equality, but it's really about women, which under normal circumstances would be fine, except for how it's implemented. Now, it is used to put men into women's bathrooms. I have known some passing trannies in my life. Trannies, you're not allowed to say that either. I've known some passing trannies in my life, which is to say transgender people who pass as the gender they would like to be considered. Well, no. The way you know that he's failing is I'd almost still bang him.
So Milo didn't, in fact, out the student, as they had already outed themselves somewhere else, hence where the picture came from. Now I want to go through a few more little points from this particular stream, which I've linked below, before we go back to Woolly's video.
I think that, allowing people like Milo to go unchallenged, like you said, on a university campus, and I saw the video where he called out the transgender student, and he's been an insufferable asshole to many students at many of his engagements. I don't think that, what purpose does that have other than to inflame and to boost his ego? Yeah. I don't see an educational value to it.
Milo didn't go unchallenged. There were many protests held, some in fact causing cancellations of the events. The entire thing was called the Dangerous Faggot Tour. Did you really think he was going around for intellectual stimuli, or to provide it? And excluding reinvigorating those that have felt alienated from this regressive rhetoric that has been seeping and poisoning universities, he's doing it for entertainment value. If you'd watch the entire video, it is rather amusing. Then again, comedy is subjective, and you're probably just going to do this instead.
And some people will be like, oh, but free speech, free speech. I'm sorry, I don't buy that, because Milo can, he can have his own channel, he can have his own website, can have his own radio show if he wanted. He could do 1,000,001 things to get his message out there.
All of which is very true, but Milo has had platforms taken away from him. And if he got a radio show, chances are people would protest that to get him removed. He does have a channel. I'm surprised people don't find a way to protest YouTube in some way. Then again, the demonetization thing has harmed a lot of people. I don't know if it harms Milo, though, because he got his book out there that he was promoting as well. Congratulations, Milo.
So no one's saying he can't say what he wants to say. I think the thing is that you're not entitled to a platform, right? And that just because you're not given that platform doesn't mean you're being censored.
He was given many platforms, and students protest to get him censored because they didn't like what he had to say, because they were afraid of him, because they're violent little pussy bitches that resorted to angry little outbursts because they didn't get their own way, like a toddler, only more destructive. And in the context of this entire thing, he was invited to speak there. He was given the platform. He was entitled to that platform because of the invitation.
Universities and colleges are places of learning. They're, this kind of fluff that Milo offers, and it is fluff. Really, why? It's got no purpose on an educational institution's campus.
That's going to be the final clip I play from this, and I'm going to add some simple commentary to it. My old university, the University of East Anglia, Norwich University, hosts gigs, concerts, and comedy events, science symposiums, lectures from guest speakers. Bands like Dragon Force, Ailstorm, Machine Head, Trivium, Bullet from Valentine, even some of the old Venga Boys crap. Why are they invited to speak on the university campus, or sing, or perform, or entertain? Because the NUS is allowed to do that. Because the university has the license to do that, because they are permitted to do it. It seems silly because none of them offer any educational value. I mean, how have you ever learnt anything useful from listening to Dragon Force, who I'm probably going to see again when they play next, and Ailstorm? I need rum. Fuck.
Free speech across the board is not something that they promote or accept. They can't. Their ideology demands the exact opposite. It demands that only whites, and only the right kind of whites, are entitled to any rights and freedoms within their lands.
Okay, well then let's think this through. Let's say we create one state, a country, that's entirely white. There are no people of any other race. Therefore, everything you've just said means nothing. You'd never get to the point of free speech to begin with. It seems a tad obvious, but there are other countries around the world where race has come into it, and privileges, rights, freedoms have been taken away from one race because they're, well, let's go with white, because South Africa and Zimbabwe are fantastic examples. I assume, though, if Robert Mugabe or President Zuma came to speak on a college campus, you wouldn't want that.
If you are not white, you are not considered equal at all, and therefore you are not allowed to partake in the same privileges and rights that they benefit from.
Why would this matter in an ethno-state or a white state that is solely white people, which isn't going to be something like America, Canada, United Kingdom, or Europe of any kind? If this is another country around the world, do we then interfere when people of other races decide they want to go there even though they're not welcome? You know this applies to a lot of other countries that don't welcome other races, Japan being the best example of racial intolerance. And you still have yet to prove that their particular ideology means that they do not allow free speech. You're still busy doing this.
Your rights and your speech is automatically considered to be less valuable than theirs if they even consider it to be valuable at all.
Who cares if Millennial Woes and Richard Spencer think my free speech is valuable or worth their time? I don't care about them. And the very fact you take such issue with this and yet prove nothing so far is astonishing. Then again, you went from having a channel creating drama, backfired magnificently, shut your channel down due to circumstances beyond your control, then created a new channel to basically mimic Christy Winters? You know, the whole Sargon, and whoever else it is you're deciding to try and create drama with, but no one's biting because you're not quite worth their time.
They would gladly see anyone not like them stripped of their basic human rights and their freedom of speech in the name of maintaining their superior race and white utopian paradise.
For this to be true, they would have to have a white utopian paradise, which they won't, wouldn't, cannot, don't, ever, probably most likely will never have.
Anyone who thinks that these ideologues, these fascists, these white supremacists are pro-free speech for all is, to put it bluntly, an idiot.
I've never said I thought they were pro-free speech, only that I would permit them a platform. The only way to truly know would be to ask them, and take their word for it. Of course, if they have said something that would contradict it, then of course you have a valid point in that they may not be for free speech. But as I've mentioned earlier, all you're doing is basing it on the labels that have been assigned, or labels they have identified, plus the ones you've assigned.
Fascist ideologies cannot be, by definition, pro-free speech.
I assume you've heard the term, actions speak louder than words. So Richard Spencer was talking and he got punched in the face. He was pointing out his Pepe thing and he was assigned the label Nazi. I don't care if he is or not, I just don't care. He was exercising his right to free speech and he was giving an interview. I find it fascinating that a lot of those that fall into the Antifa crowd are themselves more intolerant of others presenting different ideas, no matter what the idea is, and are willing to use violence, extreme prejudice, to prevent people from having the opportunity to speak, they themselves then becoming the very enemy they claim to want to destroy.
I don't know why this is so hard for some of you morons to understand. When you support people like Richard Spencer, Millennial Woes, and the like by claiming that they are entitled to a platform because of free speech, you are supporting people who would happily deny others their right to a platform and free speech.
Everything you have said so far indicates that you are in favor of a selective equality. And it's not that people support Millennial Woes, Richard Spencer, and all the other tosspots. It's that they, much like you and everyone else, no matter what they think, are allowed to speak. This is the difference. You all have the right to speak. You would rather certain people, mostly white, because you've not specified anyone else, you seem to only have an issue with Richard Spencer and the other tosspots, should not be allowed a platform. You mentioned entitlement to a platform. The majority of people are invited to speak. Much like Millennial Woes was invited to speak on Roaming Millennial's channel, much like Richard Spencer was invited to speak on her channel. And look what happened. People got bitchy about it. They complained about it, but some fantastic videos are very shortly going to be coming out about Richard Spencer from the very people you're shitting on.
These are ideologues who see anyone that is not like them as less than them. less than human, and they don't care about the rights of anyone outside their narrowly accepted group.
Well, if we want to apply current events to that particular quote, Steve Shive's remarkable intolerance to recent comments by Lacey Green. Yes, that very narrow group is getting smaller. Maybe he'll let you suck his peen after this.
They use the free speech argument as a tool to fool people into thinking they are pro-free speech for all, and to demand platforms from which they then disseminate their bullshit propaganda and hate.
In this instance, though, it wouldn't matter if they're pro-free speech or not, because they have free speech granted to them by our current laws. You still have yet to prove whether they are anti- or pro-free speech, but I thought I'd throw this in anyway.
They do not wish to engage in actual debates with those that do not agree with them.
You haven't watched many of the streams I mentioned earlier. How about the stream that was about, I don't know how long ago, by that plonker Sargon of Akkad and Tosspot, Millennial Woes. I like Sargon, though. I just want to call him a plonker. The word plonker's cool. Sargon did not agree with Millennial Woes on a whole host of things, and yet they spoke. They debated, they discussed, and the same thing happens all the freaking time. But you're so busy sucking Christie's clit.
They only want platforms to preach and recruit from.
Which is exactly why they go to a university or a college, because that reeks of success.
And let's be very clear here. No one is entitled to a platform.
You're right. No one's entitled to a platform. No one's entitled to speak at a college or university unless invited. If they're invited, they're entitled to based on the invitation, unless the invitation is revoked. If the invitation isn't revoked and they're not allowed to speak, then they have lost their entitlement because some bitchy little kids have thrown a hissy fit because they don't like different ideas.
Just because we as a society value free speech, it does not mean that everyone with an opinion or a belief is therefore entitled to a platform. Free speech has never been absolute.
Well, maybe instead of treating people as if their speech should not be, we should all be treating people with an absolute view on speech. I.e., everyone should be allowed to speak. I believe that. I know a number of people who believe that. People you, in fact, think are fucking idiots, I believe. Yes, we all believe in free speech, and I'm quite happy for anyone to have a platform.
When people like Spencer and Woes get pushback from the public, they thrive on it because most pro-free speech warriors will obliviously support and defend them under the impression that they are pro-free speech for all.
They get pushback or blowback from some of the public, and they only get defended because they're being denied their platform, the platform they had already acquired that was then being taken away from them. The distinction being whether or not they had a platform already to speak on or not. If they didn't, it's all irrelevant. If they did have a platform and people were stopping them, or a number of people were stopping them from speaking, that I would defend. And by that I mean defend Millennial Woes and the other tosser, because they had the platform.
That they are real champions for free speech, and that by denying them a platform, it means you are against free speech.
Firstly, I think we all know there's only one true champion of free speech, and that's Steve Shives. He's all about free speech. And second, yes, it does mean they're not in favour of free speech for those people. It's not just about them having a platform and denying them that platform to speak, but also to stop them speaking. The punching Richard Spencer in the face pretty much shows that there are people who will stop them with violence. So tolerant.
The irony here is that by advocating that they go unchallenged on public platforms, you are promoting people whose ideology demands that others be silenced.
I haven't watched many Millennial Woes speeches, but I've seen him be debated multiple times about his views online. And the same goes for Richard Spencer. They have been challenged. It just seems like you're being very selective with what you pay attention to, or you haven't done any research whatsoever into this, and are just going into it blindly swinging those assertions.
You are literally promoting people who are against free speech.
Oh, I see what you've done now. You've adopted another little tactic from the Brain Trust. You've named Sargon Vernaculus and That Guy T, all three of which have big channels. So when they defend someone's right to free speech on their channel, you would consider it them promoting them, like giving a shout-out, or the equivalent to a shout-out. forgetting here for a second that not one of them truly supports the ideas that they hold.
And so, in conclusion, might I mention that protesting people like Spencer and Woes is also part of free speech? But I guess only the right kind of people get to benefit from your ill-informed idea of free speech, right? Anyone who opposes giving literal fascists a platform from which to spread their hate and idiotic ideology is against free speech, even though they're actually trying to protect it by not allowing anti-free speech groups to grow and to fool people as dumb as you people are into thinking that they are pro-free speech.
That is some of the most amazing tinfoil hat-worthy commentary I've heard in quite some time. And no one's denying that protesting someone like Spencer, as long as they don't use violence, is free speech. Because let's face it, a fist to the face is not free speech, that is violence. No one is trying to take away the very freedoms those protesters have. A good protest, to some, does not end in violence. But because a lot of protests are devolving into violence so easily by the very delicate snowflakes that you once used to criticize, before you started to look at yourself and realize that it wasn't the real you, that you felt bad insulting individuals on the internet, like you're doing now, quite a bit. Hypocrisy much? I've forgotten where I was going with this.
I have downs.
Summed it up perfectly.
Pro tip for the morons out there.
Oh, fantastic. An expert is about to give me a pro tip. Is it going to be how to improve my backswing? Because I really don't need help on that.
Yes, I mean you, Sargon, Vernaculus, That Guy T, etc., etc.
If I had money to bet, I'd bet my money that not one of them has seen this video. Or if they have, they saw the first 5 seconds and realized it was just bait. I've got a bag of Skittles. Is that good enough?
It doesn't mean that they are for free speech if they carry a sign that says free speech on it, you idiots.
It just means they happen to carry a sign. Thank you. This advice is invaluable. I don't know what to do with it. I may stick it up there with, you point the gun away from you, not into your face to check the chamber.
And yet you blindly believe that they are because they said so.
I don't care if they say so or not, but I will add it is a contributing factor, along with any other evidence or instances where they have supported free speech, and the temptation to play the stone-cold quote is quite high.
Do you not realize how absolutely stupid you sound?
Probably not as stupid as somebody that claims to have felt guilty for attacking people on the internet to leave, destroy her channel, come back, make a new channel, and start doing it again for another team. Because we're teams now, we're not communities. We're teams. Apparently. Maybe. I don't care as long as I'm on the winning one. Anyway, thank you very much, Bearing. You suck dick. And thank you all for listening.